Pitch over to Joe Brennan, who's at the Weather Center with a look at radar. Joe?
Thank you, Doug. Right. Well, the stands are empty now, but they'll be filling up here as Friday Night Football just about ready to get underway. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sideline 93. For the next half hour, we'll take a look at your favorite high school football team as they gear up for the 93 season. During the half hour, we'll take a look at all the conferences and teams in Northwest Missouri and Northeast Kansas, and we'll look at the city teams right here in St. Joseph. But we'll kick things off first with one of the toughest conferences in the area, the MEC. The Maryville Spoofhounds turned out to be the surprise of the 1992 season. They finished 6-7 overall, but their 92 season ended just a game away from the state championship. Head coach Chuck Literas feels he has the talent back to make another run in 1993.
We are excited about the 1993 season. I think one thing that we have to answer in our minds is we've got to replace an offense and a defensive line. We had Adam Dorrell on the front last year who anchored the offensive line, who's graduated and gone on to Northwest Missouri State. We had Brad Shane, who was a fine center for us for 3 years, who graduated. So we've got some, we've got some questions to answer on the line of scrimmage.
The Hounds started a young quarterback and sophomore Matt Red last season. Red returns and is in a battle for the spot as a junior.
Both of them look outstanding during so far during the practice sessions that we've had. We look for big things out of both of them, and they're both stronger this year than they were last year. They're a lot more confident, so we're confident in that position.
Literas says the 93 Maryville squad is a young group, but one that has put some time in the weight room getting ready for this year, and they open the season on the road at Rockport. Savannah head coach Doug Smith will have plenty of experience to fill out the Savages roster this year. Two-year starter Aaron Hatcher returns at quarterback. Last year, Hatcher threw for over 1,100 yards and 11 touchdowns. He'll be aiming for Jeremy Scarborough, who averaged 16 yards a catch in 92. On defense, All-MEC linebacker Jamie Damgar returns. The Savages are looking to contend for the conference title after going 3-6 and 1-3 in the MEC a year ago. Perennial powerhouse Chillicothe started off the 92 season by winning their first 3 games, but wound up with a 4-6 mark. Head coach Bob Fairchild has several seniors returning to the 1993 Hornet squad. Matt Griffith will be back at quarterback. He missed the season last year after getting injured in Chillicothe's first game. With Griffith in the backfield, Shane Midyett, David Booth, and Mike Williamson at running back. Fairchild says his concerns lie with the linebackers and defensive secondary going into 1993. The 5-time state champion Hornets open with Mauer Hill and Atchison. And we'll take a look at the other MEC teams, Benton and Lafayette, later in the show.
2 in a hole.
The largest school in St. Joseph will have the largest line this year. The Central Indians will have a huge offensive line lining up when the Indians kick off the 93 season in the Jamboree September 3rd.
We're going to average about 260 pounds on the offensive line and defensive line. And every one of those kids were a starter somewhere, either offense or defense last year. What we're hoping for right now is we've got to get a lot more agility, and we've got to get a lot quicker. I mean, we're doing a pretty good job, but we just have to pick up the pace quite a bit. I think the kids are physically fit and physically strong, and then once they understand what we mean by intensity and aggressiveness, we're going to be in pretty good shape.
Head coach Tony Dudik had his son calling signals last year at Central. Now he's graduated. Dudik must find a new quarterback. He says his offensive backfield is inexperienced, but one that has potential.
Paul Woolard right now is sitting at #1, and he'll probably be our starter to come to Jamboree in the beginning of the year. He sat in the wings here for 3 years and worked his tail off and done a great job on a JV level, and we expect him to step in there and do a fine job on the varsity. I moved the flanker Ryan Van Meter to quarterback as a backup, and also have an excellent sophomore in David Hosses.
The Indians went 3-6 in 1992, but won the Jamboree over Lafayette and Benton. In 1993, a tough schedule awaits them.
Last year in our 10-game schedule, which included Jamboree, 6 of those teams made a state playoff, so I think that's pretty good. We've got to be getting ready to go every week, and the one thing we can't afford to do with anybody is overlook.
This year, the Tarkio Indians are young but quick. They look to rely on hitting in 93 to carry them through the Grand River Conference schedule.
We do have some good kids, some good young kids back. And I think the thing that we've been noted for the most over the years is probably the fact that we're a good hitting football team on both sides of the ball, and that's something that's carried us a long way.
A major problem facing Coach Palmero as he tries to get his Tarkio Indians ready for the 93 season is a lack of depth. He says he likes the chances of a starting 11, but any injuries could have a major impact.
Without the numbers to draw from, that dictates to a certain degree that we're not going to have many kids out. And for some reason, this is the first year that we've had the numbers that we've had. They're actually the lowest numbers that we've had in 20 years since I've been here, and I attribute that to a lot of things. I attribute that to insurance, cars, jobs, and a whole ball of wax.
Yeah.
Look for running back Eric Levings to be the workhorse of the Indian offense. Palmero calls him the team's best all-around athlete.
He's probably, I'm going to say right off the top, probably one of the premier running backs in the conference, and I don't think there'll be very much said against that. He had a great year last year. He complimented Darren Lee extremely well. Of course, Darren complimented him very well also. He had over 700 yards in an offense in which we try to spread things out as much as possible.
Tarkio finished 7-2, good for second in the GRC in 92. Levings and the rest of the Indians will have to be in top form to improve on that as they enter a tough conference race. We begin our look at the rest of the Grand River Conference in Albany, where the defending GRC champion Warriors are returning 3 players in a backfield that gained nearly 2,400 yards a year ago. Leading the way for Albany will be quarterback Kevin Ward, who just missed a 1,000-yard passing season in 1992 on the way to all-conference and all-district selections. The Gallatin Bulldogs finished the 1992 campaign with a 1-8 record, good for 6th in the GRC. Kevin Hickson's Bulldogs return a big senior class, including a large amount of letter winners from last season's squad. They look to quarterback Dallas Lockridge and running back Brad Schubert to lead the way this year. Coach Tony Braby's Maysville Wolverines are coming off a 9-3 record in 1992. That was good enough for 3rd in the GRC, but only 1 starter returns on offense and defense from that team. Key players on the 93 Wolverines include lineman Joe Adams and a pair of senior running backs, Eric Teschner and Chad Catlett. Numbers are down at South Harrison, but Coach Jeff Wallace looks to have a strong rushing attack. The Bulldog offensive line is young, but has varsity experience and averages 235 pounds across the board. That's good news for fullback Eric Klingensmith and tailback Brandon Pulls. Last year's 3-6 record represented a down season for Stu Klein's Rockport Blue Jays. They try to get back on the winning track that made them regulars at the state championship game with Tad Gephardt at tailback. He moves from quarterback and will be running behind an offensive line anchored by Tim Moran at center. The Princeton Tigers hope to continue to improve as they battle bigger schools in the GRC. They're looking to a large group of underclassmen as they face the conference race in 93. And rounding out the Grand River Conference schedule, this is Dave Fairchild's 13th year as coach at Hamilton. Look for his Hornets to have a strong defense as 5 all-conference performers return, including first-teamers in defensive end Matt Gilbert and defensive tackle Jesse Eaton.
Leading the Leblond Golden Eagles into the 93 campaign is new head coach David Stuckey. And with the new coach comes a new offense, replacing the Eagles' run and shoot.
Philosophy, it's the I formation. Basically, it's we're going to run the ball quite a bit more. We're still going to throw the ball. I mean, we're not going to go away. The kids know how to throw. We got a good quarterback. Got good receivers coming back. We got a good solid core of skill players coming back.
Leblond returns senior running back Sean McGuire, and McGuire will be running behind a line with plenty of game experience.
Really experienced on the line. In fact, all 5 starters we got are all lettermen returning from last year, 4 of which are returning starters. One of those 4 returning starters is moving to tight end for us, Ryan Roseberry.
The Eagles' theme this year is no more excuses, and the Class 1A program has drawn 50 players to camp this year. Stuckey will draw from that to fill the holes left by graduation, and on defense, he says there's little to patch up.
Replacing 3 defensive backs. All the defensive backs are coming back. We're, sorting through players and evaluating talent there. We'll still be solid there, but of course, when you lose athletes like those that they had, you got some question marks to fill, but we're feeling really comfortable now with what we've seen so far. Of course, we've only been in pads one day, so it'll take time to step up.
Leblond opens the season on the road at Plattsburgh.
Carried their opponents, going on to an 11-1 record, including an appearance in the state championship game where they tied South Nodaway. In 1993, things could turn out to be very much the same, with an offensive line that averages over 240 pounds.
Our linemen are all back, and all 5 of our offensive linemen and defensive linemen had played for the last 2 years, so they've got good experience there, and which makes it kind of nice for us because we're able to progress ahead a little bit farther than we have been in the past, because it's just, you're playing with some veterans up front, it makes it a little bit easier as far as teaching with those guys.
Thanks to graduation, Coach Buckler faced holes in both the offensive and defensive backfields coming into the '93 season. But when you have such an experienced team, that's a challenge that's easily tackled.
The thing that I like, I guess, as much as anything about this ball club, we've got 15 seniors out for football, out of a senior class of 17 boys. And one of the guys that's not out had major knee surgery last year, and the other guys never played before. So just really thrilled with that. We're going to be a senior-dominated ball club, and that's real enjoyable.
Despite the South Holt Knights' size, strength, and experience, they're not going to be facing an easy race in the 275 conference.
Fairfax will be, I think they only graduated 1 or 2 seniors last year, and they had a very good ball club last year. Worth County will be throwing the ball, and they'll do a good job. North Nodaway will do a good job. Stanberry obviously won 9 ball games straight last year. They'll be in the thick of things. So I think it's very balanced again. I don't think there's anybody that's head and heels above anybody else, and I think that there's going to be a lot of people on Friday nights that are going to have to line up and play.
Up and down the line, the 275 conference may be the strongest 8-man league in the state. Starting in Mound City, the Panthers had a tough time in '92, but lost only 2 starters on offense and 1 on defense. With that extra year of experience, Coach Richard Matzes hopes his team will be able to eliminate the mental mistakes that cost the Panthers a year ago. They'll need to as they face a tough 275 schedule. Another team that's hoping to rebound from a down year in '92 is the Nodaway-Holt Trojans. They finished 1-9 last season, but return a large group of talented upperclassmen, including all-conference honorable mention selections Matt Brookshire, Sheldon Saxton, and Josh Carpenter. The North Nodaway Mustangs are looking for a strong rushing attack to carry them through the 275 schedule. They return 3 starters from the offensive line as well as 2 talented junior running backs. Brian Daly at tailback, who gained nearly 1,400 yards on the ground in '92, and fullback Jason Forney, who picked up close to 250 yards rushing. Frank Esposito has 16 players out for the team in Craig, which is quite an accomplishment when you consider what that town went through this summer. Despite losing their field and 2 players to the flood waters, they're hoping to improve on '92's 6-4 record with a hard-hitting defense. 3,000 yards rushing in 1992 returns to the Fairfax Bulldogs in the persons of quarterback Ryan Osborne and running backs Brian Slaughter and Matt Smith. That offense generated 44 points a year ago against a tough South Holt defense. Coach Joe Drake is hoping the defense that gave up 55 points against South Holt will be stronger this year. The Rockets of West Nodaway finished 5th in the 275 in 1992, but look to be very deep this year. They returned 17 varsity players from last year's squad, as well as players from undefeated JV and junior high teams. Brian Hackett returns after gaining nearly 1,700 yards total offense in 1992, but the Rockets are looking to overcome a lack of varsity experience at quarterback. Clint Ross's Stanberry Bulldogs finished a very successful 1992 campaign at 9-2 overall, including a second-place finish in the 275 as well as a district championship. They return a 20-touchdown performer in '92 and running back Jamie Hughes, as well as second-team All-State tight end Aaron Graham. An experienced team returns for Mike Hand's King City Wildcats, but he's looking to fill the quarterback and fullback spots on offense. At tailback, Jared Hunter gained over 850 yards and 12 touchdowns in '92, and Brad Clay recorded 140 tackles for last season's 5-5 Wildcats. And rounding out the 275 conference, the Worth County Tigers return a high-powered offense behind sophomore quarterback P.J. Sanders. He gained over 1,600 yards total offense in 1992, including nearly 1,500 through the air. Against West Nodaway in '92, Sanders threw for just short of 500 yards. Coach Mark Fletcher hopes to improve on the team's defense and rushing game to build on last year's 4-6 record.
Lafayette coach Paul Compton is looking for a repeat of the luck the Irish found in 1992, winning the district and advancing to the second round of the state playoffs. Though there are some question marks, the Lafayette Fighting Irish have some talent returning in 1993.
The offensive line, we've got some very capable players at offensive line. We've got some players back on the line positions that did start 1 or 2 games for us. So, you know, your offensive line is always a big concern, but we've got Gene Holcomb back at quarterback, and he's an excellent leader for us. In the backfield, I think we're going to be as strong as we ever have been.
Gone is running back Gary Didell, who is now playing at Missouri Western. But there's another Didell in camp, making the Irish even stronger with their core of running backs.
Gary was more of a power running back, and Craig has a lot of quick moves and a little better speed. Derek Beasley, you know, what can you say? He's probably one of the top blocking running backs in the area, and he seems to be very satisfied and content with that role. Derek's going to get some carries this year, you know, don't get me wrong, but we've got to utilize his strength.
The last couple of seasons have seen Lafayette finish with the district crown and in a playoff showdown with Benton. What's in store for '93?
We'd like to be conference champs, and we think we've got the team to contend for that this year. So we've got some things to look forward to before we get to the state playoffs.
It's a beat in the Platte Valley Conference. The defending state co-champs in 8-man football are looking to go back to the title game in Maryville.
The road back to the championship game won't be easy for Coach Jeff Sumy and his Longhorns.
We graduated 6 strong seniors, and also one of our juniors was an all-stater transferred to another school. So we got a lot of kids that are going to be expected to step up and do a tremendous job for us. It will be tough. It will be tough, but kids have set down their individual goals, and that's what they're hanging up in their lockers now, and we're going to work on our team goals as we go along.
South Nodaway shared the '92 8-man state title with South Holt after the championship game ended in a tie. Past success can be a motivating factor, but it only goes so far.
We're really proud to be in the state championship, and to tie is the same thing as winning a championship in the state of Missouri. So they're really proud to have that state championship banner. We are co-champs, but yet we are state champs too. So the kids do remember that, but we can't live on last year's expectations.
Last year's Longhorns relied heavily on 2 standout running backs, Brian Freemeyer and Chad Wiederholt. Look for the '93 version to show a more balanced attack, even going up top to take advantage of a faster team.
I think the 8-man game's heading towards a passing attack. We're trying to incorporate a passing attack into our scheme. Basically, we're going to come back with our expanded playbook again and trying to work on that sideline-to-sideline football. That's what 8-man's about.
The North Andrew Cardinals returned their entire offensive line from the team that went 5-4 in '92, but lost their offensive backfield to graduation. Coach Jim Schultz says if his team will hit on defense, they'll have a shot to improve on last year's third-place PVC finish. In Union Star, the Trojans are in a similar position as North Andrew. They have an experienced offensive line returning, but a young backfield running behind them. Jeremy Wharton and Travis Erisman were defensive leaders on the team that went 5-5 overall, 4-2 in the PVC last year. Steve Taylor's the third coach in less than a year to be in charge in Elwood. That, along with the devastating flood, will make a repeat of '92's co-championship in the PVC a difficult task for Elwood. The DeKalb Tigers hope to take advantage of a team with good physical skills to improve on last season's 1-9 record. One drawback for the Tigers is a lack of senior leadership, but they'll look to a threesome of upperclassmen to show the way. The '92 Stewartsville Cardinals went 3-6, good for 4th in the PVC. Only 2 starters returned from that team, but Coach Darren Schick says the offensive line, including guards Jason Yount and James Langley, should give the Cardinals a strong foundation.
The Benton Cardinals have been on a roll the past 3 seasons. They've lost only 1 regular season game in that time and played for the state championship as well. In 1993, head coach Don Tabor begins his 9th season with the Cardinals, looking for some linemen, but he says he's already found his runners.
In the backfield, I feel that we're really blessed. I've got two of the strongest backs that I've ever had at one time in the same backfield with Brockman and John Phillips. And, hey, I look for them both to be outstanding.
The Cardinals defense won't need much shoring up going into 1993, returning several players to the defensive line.
Other than that, our whole secondary is going to be new, but I have been impressed with what they have done so far. So, hey, defensively, if you're not any good, you're not going to win. And, you know, I think that's kind of been our hallmark down here, that we have had good defense, so I hope it continues.
It is truly a family affair at Benton this year. Tabor's son, Chris, is helping as an assistant coach, and his twin sons, Matt and Mike, are both on the squad, with one of them battling for the quarterback spot.
The quarterback situation is really right there right now. Michael Tabor, the son of this old guy right here, got hurt last year as a sophomore, and he wasn't able to play, and that really hurt him. He needed to play reserve ball last year. So he and Jeremy Holman are working in the quarterback spot.
The Cards open September 3rd in the Jamboree. In their second year under head coach Ron Musser, the East Buchanan Bulldogs claimed the district title and met up with Plattsburgh in the state playoffs. This year they bring back two players who helped get them there, Casey and Corey Klein at quarterback and running back. Last season the two combined for 2,000 yards on offense. Musser will be counting on Casey, a senior, this season.
Casey is our quarterback, you know, and he's just like another coach on the field. He can tell if somebody's got a question, he can tell them what to do. Plus, he's a good athlete. He can throw the ball, get the ball to people. And we're really blessed. We've got some good skilled people, and I hope we can find some people to block and give us time to throw the ball, and some people to block so we can run the ball a little bit.
And the search is on for some linemen to replace those lost to graduation last year.
We need to find left guard and our left tackle, and we're probably going to have a new right guard and a new center. And we've got some battles going on. We lost some good linemen by graduation last year, and like I say, we got all our skilled people back, but we've got to find somebody to block up front.
The goals for this team are high after finishing 8-3 last season and atop the KCI.
We went to the sectionals last year, and we want to go further this year. And we're just going to take one game at a time and try to win as many games as we can and go as far as we can.
The Cameron Dragons have one of the premier running backs in the KCI in Chris Best. Best rushed for over 1,300 yards and 19 touchdowns in 1992. The Dragons were 7-3 and tied for first in the KCI's North Division. Besides having Best back, the Dragons return their starting quarterback and leading receiver, and they open on the road at North Platte. Plattsburgh is coming off an undefeated regular season and an appearance in the state championship game. Gondo is all-state running back Marlo Tillman, who will play for Boston College. New head coach Dan Kennedy will have some veterans back, though. The Tigers return all-conference linebacker Mike Nichols and running back Mendel Graham, who rushed for over 500 yards and 4 touchdowns last season. Plattsburgh begins its 93 campaign at home, hosting Leblond. They're down in numbers at Mid-Buchanan this season. The Dragons' upperclassmen are few, but they include several key players for Mid-Buck this year. Running back Brian Coldry, tight end linebacker Scott Coldry, lineman Scott Chambers, and lineman John Long lead the list of returning lettermen at Mid-Buchanan this season. The Dragons finished 4th in their division in the KCI last year. They opened with Platte County. Lathrop welcomes a new head coach in Steve Young for the 1993 season. Young has a team that is weak in numbers but strong in experience. Heading up the offensive backfield, quarterback Matt Pritchett and running backs Matt Goodwin and Brad Martin. Seniors Grant Carson and Tony Bryant shore up the offensive and defensive lines. The Mules were 4-6 a season ago, and they start the season hosting East Buchanan. The Delaware Valley League belonged to the Wafina Wildcats in 1992. They tore through their schedule last season, winding up with a perfect 9-0 record and the DVL title. Their only loss occurring in the playoffs to Nemaha Valley. Graduation, though, has hurt the Cats in 1993.
We lost the leading passer in state from last year. Pete wound up throwing over 2,000 yards of pass offense. Lost his leading receiver, who was an all-state player, and one of our leading running backs and tackler. So we got hit pretty hard at skill positions by graduation, but I like the young kids that are coming in to their places.
Deaton will be counting on his offensive and defensive lines to take this team back to the playoffs. It's the defense that Deaton is especially relying on this year.
This year's defense may be our strong suit.
I have a lot of my down linemen back from last year, and they're all stronger and a year older. Our quickness is excellent up front, and I think probably defense is going to carry us quite a bit. So we'll put a lot of emphasis on it.
And though the Wildcats lost the state's leading passer to graduation, Deaton says the Wathena attack won't put fans to sleep this year. The Wildcats open the season on the road at Troy. The Troy Trojans finished third in the DVL last year. Head coach Don Cash has some holes to fill, though, after losing 9 seniors to graduation. Gary Stamper leads the Trojan rushing attack with 679 yards rushing from last season. And Jackson Heights is expected to be among the top of the DVL come season's end. The Cobras finished 4th last year and bring back a host of seniors to round out this year's squad. Well, that'll put a wrap on Sideline 93. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll be watching your team as they battle towards the state playoffs in what will be 11 short weeks away. We'll be following you guys, so stay in tune with us every Friday night on Football Tonight. That'll do it for Sideline 93. Thanks for watching.